Welcome to Surviving Darkness with Heather and Jenny, episode 31.
So we had done this and then last night, and Heather and I are not all the way technically savvy, and our sound guy, editor / everything guy was doing things remote. And anyway,
he had us set up and said, "You're ready to go." But we didn't know that our mics would fall asleep between the time he set it up and the time that we started recording. So we hit record and started going. So we talked to you all for an hour last night without you able to hear a word we said.
yes.
So we get lucky enough to redo that episode today. So episode 31 again for us. And
Take 2.
First time for you.
Yeah. So that's why this one's coming up a little bit later, because things happened.
Well,
It's being uploaded a little bit later. So
our producer says it's job security. I'm thinking I'm going to have to learn how to do this. That way, if my producer isn't there when I tell him I want you there, no, just kidding.
He says,
we can do it ourselves.
So he says, "Pay me, then you can tell me exactly when to be here." So,
But anyway, I don't know. Last night we were pretty drained. I think we may be a little bit better today than what we were last night. Anyway, because last night was rough.
mm-hmm.
But we've had sort of an emotionally draining week.
Been a lot of things that have gone on, a lot of things in the community that have gone on, that when you feel the emotions of everybody around you, and multiple people are faced with basically tragedies, your heart just goes out to them, and you feel those, you just feel bad for them. And
we've been there with like losses and things like that. So it's not so much that we have sympathy for them. We actually have empathy, because we feel or have known exactly what they're feeling.
mm-hmm.
And that makes it hard too. I mean, it don't even have to be anybody that we know. We just know what that family is going through.
And it's been young people, that have, well, the one was killed on a motorcycle this week. And he, passed away a day after being hit on a motorcycle, and had 2 young kids. And, it's just like, I'll probably keep saying like you said, but anyways, the youngest one probably won't have any memories of him,
Just have to know what people share. And
yeah.
What that child's told growing up about the parent.
Yeah.
About the dad. And that's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then the person that was driving the vehicle, that the truck ran into, you don't know what that person's feeling either. And knowing that this happened, and they have to live with that part the rest of their lives too.
Right.
And unless they're absolutely a cold-hearted person, that would be something hard to live with every day.
Right.
To know that it was a younger person in their early 20s, and had a family, and because of something that happened and you were involved, they're no longer here. And
we don't know the circumstances, exactly what happened or what anybody was thinking or any of that. But we have to get to where we take that time for that extra look. And if you got to wait to cross an intersection or cross a 4-lane, do it. If you see vehicles coming, don't just shoot across there because you don't want to sit and wait for 2 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. And I mean, a lot of people are guilty of that. They just don't want to sit there to wait for the vehicles, and they see a bunch down the road coming. So I'm just going to pull out. And then also, I was talking last night, not necessarily on here, but in general, that I've had to catch myself, because our brains are, when we're driving a vehicle, we think we're looking for other cars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pull out because there's a car coming. But I've had to literally stop myself from going because I put my foot on the gas and I'm like, wait, what are you doing? The motorcycle is a motorcycle. It's not going slow like a bicycle. But it's like your brain is thinking, I'm looking for a car, not a bike or a motorcycle, so I can pull out.
Yeah. Oh, they're not going very fast, you know.
We get distracted, and in our mind, subconsciously, we're thinking, well, there's not a car coming. But we don't register it's a motorcycle and it's going the same speed as a car. Mm-hmm. So it's just taking that extra second and really focusing on what you're doing because, I mean, they don't have all that protection that we have in a vehicle.
No, not at all. No.
And like we were talking also, Mom had mentioned a helmet. And I told her, I said, sometimes the helmet doesn't really, I mean, it'll help, but just how the directions and stuff that a person can be hit can cause damage.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because of the way it moves the head, the brain and stuff. I said, so not necessarily does it mean that the helmet didn't do its job.
Yeah, football players wear helmets all the time, but they end up with severe concussions.
Right.
Because the brain is still situated in the head and it's moved in directions it's not supposed to be.
And up against the skull,
mm-hmm.
which is a hard, bony surface.
Yes.
So, yeah, anything can happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that something malfunctioned.
Yeah. And then people automatically say things too, you know, like, you know, and not saying that against Mom, but, you know, what about the helmet? Or when we were talking and said that our cousin had gotten killed on the 4-wheeler. And when they had it on the news, they said that he didn't have a helmet on. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. When the 4-wheeler fell back on him, it crushed everything in there. Right. And his, you know, on his chest and his stomach. No helmet.
Wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, we're absolutely saying, wear your helmet, period. You know, but not in every circumstance is that the issue, you know, or, you know, this boy had a helmet on.
Right.
But, you know, that what happens on the inside,
right,
you know, you can't help.
Right.
So, you know, and it makes it a little more difficult to talk about it today because your son's in here and it was one of his really good friends. And that's why that's one thing that has made it harder for us versus, you know, instead of just hearing about this situation and being like, oh man, that's awful. It does hit closer to home because it upset your sons, you know, and that makes us feel for them too.
Right.
And because it's a friend.
Right.
And you know that their heart's breaking and things like that. And you just want to make things better for them. And there's no way to do that.
And them riding a motorcycle too. I tell them all the time, you know, be careful. And I stress so much when they're on them. And it's not so much because I don't trust their driving, although the oldest one, he pushes the limits sometimes.
Yes,
I believe he likes to scare me. But anyway, it's because of the other drivers. Mm-hmm. I mean, not everyone pays attention, nor do they care that you're on a motorcycle. I've got the right of way. I'm a car.
I hover and I hover around motorcycles. If I get close to them, wherever I am, I try to stay near them because I'll stay back far enough away from them that should something happen that I'm not going to hit them also. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to let somebody get in there that's not being that same way. I feel like I kind of need to protect them because I do try to pay more attention to motorcycles and things like that, you know? So I guess, and it's funny because one of the girls that I work with, she and her husband ride, and we were talking about that. And this was actually before this accident happened. We were talking about that. And she said, I thought I was the only one that did that because I ride. And I was like, no, ma'am, I have done that for years because I know people that ride. I said, but also they don't have that protection and people don't pay attention to them. And so I guess I kind of feel like mama bird hovering over him just to make sure. Right. And, you know, I try. Right. I'm not saying that nothing would happen, but I do try to kind of protect them a little bit in my own way.
Right.
So, and then we had another young man who was 35 and passed away. We have, and it may be everywhere in the United States or whatever, you know, we don't know, but we've had a lot of issues around where we live with bees. And we had 2 people that have passed away in our community from bee stings in the last week, right? It was last week, wasn't 2 weeks, right? It was last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and, the first one, it was sad. He had a reaction, and he had gone to the bathroom, and a couple friends were there too, or maybe family members. Anyway, one of them was a nurse and administered epi to him twice in his house, and they did once or twice in the ambulance, and he still didn't make it.
And started CPR. They did everything that you would do.
Yes. And then the other one was a 35-year-old young man with kids, and he had gotten stung like on a Monday or Tuesday, and was supposed to be getting married the following Saturday. And they just had to take him off of life support 2 nights ago.
Yes.
And when you see that, even though we didn't know this young man, we knew several people who were close to him or knew him. And just from the Facebook posts of everybody, he seemed like a really good guy to people. And a lot of people loved him. And it's crazy because, like I said, I don't know this guy, but I had prayed, and I had prayed for the families and stuff, because that is just so awful. And it's something that happens. People get stung by bees, and he knew he was allergic. And but where we live too, it's a rural area, and it takes a long time for ambulances to get to people and things like that. And those are crucial minutes. And it was just too long for him to have gotten medical treatment. And you think about his kids, his fiance, everything like that. The fact that they were planning their wedding, and her post was just heartbreaking, talking about everything that was supposed to have happened. And now, she's got they did the honor walk, and she said, I was supposed to be walking down the aisle to you, but now I'll walk you down the aisle to help save other people's lives, because he was an organ donor.
Right.
And this is why we said it's been a mentally draining week, because we weren't personally affected by this, but because we are sympathetic, empathetic, that our hearts do break for these people. And then you've had things going on with your church and stuff like that, and close people there, and it just takes its toll on you when you're pouring out your emotions to God for these people, and
right.
Praying and everything. And it's just hard, and it does just take its toll on you, even though we weren't close to these people, but the people around us were. And then just the circumstances of everything definitely makes it hard to process, I guess is what you're saying.
Right.
What I'm
and
saying.
And then also, anniversary dates coming up. Subconsciously, we know it's coming
Today.
Not necessarily do we actually think, oh, this is coming up, but we feel it before we even actually look at the calendar and say, why am I feeling so down? Why do I feel like this week? And then you look at the calendar and you're like, oh yeah, the 16th. That would have been Mom and Dad's 50th wedding anniversary.
I just happened to think, I know you weren't caught up on our episodes because you don't listen. Anyway.
Crickets.
But last week when I listened, I don't know if you remember me saying I just felt weird, like I just wanted to be alone. And you had said a lot of times when you get that way, something's going to happen. And I said, yeah, that's how I feel too. And I just remembered that was last week. And then all of this stuff happened this week.
Yes, that's true.
And a lot of times that's what would happen. I would just say, I just have a feeling like something's not right. Something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it it would, and so I didn't even think about that.
About the anniversary coming up. So today would have been, or today is 12 years since Dad passed away.
It would have been their 50th wedding anniversary.
Right. And you had said, although it didn't record last night, that that's what makes it hard, is that he was our dad. So we loved him as our dad, but we still have the anger issues that come up, even though we're like, we forgave him. But I mean, you forgive, but it's hard to forget.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have those memories, those feelings do come back up again. So it's always mixed emotion about this time.
I don't know about you. I'm sure you do. I'm sure we all do. But on this day, I relive those emotions that I had that morning. And, my mom and I were the ones that would take care of Dad. You had young kids at the time, so you couldn't help out as much because you had to take care of the kids. And they called me that morning, and I took off out there and then get to the hospital, and they're working on him, literally working on him. And then we basically just had to make the decision to just let him go. And, while we're sitting there with him, I didn't feel hatred at that point. That was my dad.
Right.
That was passing away.
Right.
And so, yeah, we were all just crying and heartbroken and everything when that happened. And which is normal because that is your dad.
Right.
And, but then there's other days that you just get mad over everything that happened. And you're like, I wish I had a different one. I wish I'd have had a different one or a different life. But we've always said, too, that things happen for a reason. Things would have come out before if they were supposed to come out and all this other stuff. So, God gave us this life. As crazy as it was and everything, God did give us this life to live. So we have a testimony and show people that they can overcome that. Yes. And survive. And so, but it does make it hard still on anniversaries. And with that being said, I'd talked to Mom last 2 weeks about possibly coming on here and just talking about some of the stuff that she had gone through. And she's absolutely, I don't know that she ever will do that.
Right.
She, in the past, year or two, she has just gotten to the point where she will randomly talk about things. Or, sometimes we'll be talking about what has gone on and she'll mention a little bit more each time. But we still don't have a clue what all she went through.
No, and she always is like, I can't believe that I didn't know this. I can't believe that I lived in the same house and I did not know all of this was going on. So she blames herself a lot for the things that happened.
But like we said, we don't blame her.
And she feels stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she's like, I feel so stupid that I didn't see all that.
But that was another thing, and I hate to sit here and just down him, but that was one thing that he did, and he did that to her a lot.
Talk down to her, make her feel stupid.
And that's what they do, and not just him. That's what
gaslighting.
Yeah, that's what they do, is make you feel like an idiot, make you feel like they're, the things that you think are just ridiculous. And maybe she did mention something to him and be like, well, she did. And he was like, no, I don't know what in the world you're talking about. There's nothing like that going on. Yeah. And then you're like, well, maybe I am kind of crazy.
To get the spotlight off of you, I'm going to make you look like you're dumb, make you feel inferior, make you feel whatever, low, and almost make you feel ridiculous for even thinking something like that. Where's your mind? How sick are you? When in all actuality, The other person isn't the sick one. It's the one
No.
doing it that's the sick one.
That is exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And so I'm sure she does feel stupid for being manipulated. That's her words, not ours, you know, and for being manipulated and not having her eyes open for things. But like we've said 1,000 times before, she was going through her own hell.
We were all in a fight, literally, for our lives.
Yes. Yes. And we said, you know, you didn't know what was going on with me. We've said this before, but we talked about it last night. I had kind of figured things out with you, but I couldn't come to you and say, listen, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on with you because it's going on with me because of the threats and everything that we had gone through. And that wasn't even a possibility.
Right.
And we weren't even allowed to be alone with each other a lot. We were some, but those times we did silly stuff together or we just fought, you know, but you know, we threw cigarette butts up into the ceiling fan and laughed till we like almost peed our pants as watching where they went all over the living room.
Trying to dodge them.
I mean, we did stuff like that because we didn't have to worry about anything at that time.
Right.
Or you punch me, you know, because I'd laugh at you. And I mean,
oh, that would
so
make me even
fought.
madder. And then you, if you wanted something and I'd be like, no, you'd start hitting, please. And that was your thing. I was like, your son does that. And I'm like, would you please quit acting like your mother? Please. And just hit me in the arm. And I'm like, listen, you hitting me ain't going to help you get what it is that you're wanting because you're just making me mad. You keep hitting me. But it was,
no, I will clarify this. This wasn't like my teenage years. I didn't hit you then. When I was younger, I did.
I was like, would you get off of me? But if you think about it, even when you were younger, I did a lot to protect you. Like, not, like, I don't know, I guess I babied you. When we had to clean house, I gave you the little jobs, like dusting and stuff like that, that wasn't anything heavy. I did all the sweeping, mopping, that kind of stuff. So it was like, I guess I thought, you know, this ain't right that we have to clean house and she's little, so I'm just going to give her just the tiny things to do. And I did all the big stuff.
Yeah, when we washed dishes, you would wash the dishes and I would stand on the chair and rinse the dishes.
Put them in
I was that little. But, you know, and there's nothing wrong with kids doing chores. But yes, you did. You did.
And then, like, on your birthdays, I would try to, I mean, I got home before you did. So I would try to get, like, some streamers or something hung up for you for your birthday. Because that really didn't happen for us. So I wanted your birthdays. And that's probably why you're like, oh, yeah, we have to have a birthday cake.
Yeah.
I don't really care. It doesn't bother me one way or the other whether we do anything for my birthday or not. But you're all about birthdays.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably because I made sure that you had something and felt special for your birthdays.
And everybody just gets one day a year where it's actually them being celebrated.
Right.
And I don't care. You don't have to have a whole big cake, but you're going to have whatever you want. If you want a glazed donut, I'll get you a glazed donut.
We're going to stick a candle in a glazed donut.
Yeah,
and if you want to be Peter Parker in the middle of the week with a birthday cake and the whole shebang, we're going to have a birthday cake for Peter Parker.
That's right, yes.
For a 5-year-old who thinks he's 16 and he's Peter Parker. Because he was 15 yesterday and he's 16 today.
Yes.
So, you know, that's how we roll.
We do, yes. That's exactly right. If I wanted to have that, y'all better do that for me.
I just want to have a birthday cake. So we're going to make up some. We're going to have a birthday party for somebody.
That's a good way to get cookie cake. I have an idea now.
Are you going to tell your son that Peter Parker had another birthday, or are you going to say, "Oh no, it's Spider-Man's birthday"?
No, I'm going to tell him it's Aunt May's birthday because I'm Aunt May.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So then we got to get a cookie cake because that's what Aunt May likes.
Not simply because I just want a cake or a cookie cake. I have to have a reason for it.
Exactly.
You can't have any of that stuff unless there's a special occasion.
Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we just really got off track with what we were saying.
That's all right. But yeah, we're saying that these are things that you tried to do to make my life better. And because that's just what we did. And Mom wasn't brought up where you celebrate a lot of that stuff either. So it
No.
wasn't a big deal to her. And that's not saying anything bad about anybody. It's just the way it was.
It's just strange to me, though, that you mentioned that Mom wasn't brought up like that. But Mama made sure we had a cake. She was like, "What kind of cake do you want for your birthday
yeah,
this
she
year?"
did.
And I remember one year, I didn't really want a cake, but I wanted a huge no-bake cookie. So she got a big pizza pan out, and I had a huge no-bake cookie that I could eat off of.
Uh-huh.
So she just spread it across that pan, and that was my cake. My cookie cake was a huge no-bake cookie, and you could just cut little pieces off of it.
Because we all fought over her no-bake cookies and her fudge.
Yes.
It was,
so I had, for my birthday, I had my own huge pizza pan of a no-bake cookie.
Mm-hmm.
And then her red velvet cake. Oh, that was so good. So I would either want a red velvet cake or I would want a huge no-bake cookie.
Yes.
But I thought I was so special because, people got the chocolate chip cookie and all of this for their birthdays and stuff, but I got a huge Mama's no-bake cookie.
That's exactly right. Yes.
So it's odd to me that she wasn't like that with her own kids, but she was like that with the grandkids.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't have a lot of extra money at all. But I remember even after I got married, and I still have it, she had given me a card. She was going to mail it, but she didn't want to because everybody knows I love teddy bears. And it had a magnet in it and it was a square kind of thick magnet, so she didn't want to mail it in case something happened, and gave it to me. And that was so special because, for one, she just to think of me that way, but for two, she didn't have a lot of money and it didn't cost a lot of money, but that was her whole heart to give us something like that. And so our life was not easy, but there were things that we're still very, very, very thankful for. And with knowing how our mama was, I don't know if she would have been able to handle knowing everything that happened. I think it would have broken her heart. I really do think about that. And
I tell Mom all the time that if Papa wouldn't have died when I was just 10, I don't think a lot of that would have happened because I had that bond with him that I could have been like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And he probably would have, it wouldn't have been pretty.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been pretty.
Mom would have felt like she could have gone back home, like we could have gone there and stayed. But I don't think she wanted to be a burden to Mama.
Right.
Because she didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And plus, they didn't have the best taste in their mouth as far as Dad was concerned when they got married. And I think it's hard to swallow your pride sometimes and say, listen, you were right.
And I messed up.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I get that.
Right. I do.
We've been through divorces. Yeah, we get that, so you do. But, so you're right. You're probably right that I don't remember him hardly at all. I was only 4 or 5 when he passed. So I don't remember much at all. But you all did have a bond, and Mama talked about that. Our mom talked about that. Y'all did silly things together a lot, and
drove through the back of a garage.
Yeah. Yes.
Not everybody gets to drive through the back of a garage with their grandpa.
Yes. Yes. See, even then she couldn't drive. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, and plumb up until the day he died, it was my fault.
Yes.
And I'd be like, Papa, I couldn't touch the gas and the brake.
Yes.
Oh, but it was your fault. You were the one driving. You had your hands on the steering wheel.
Yep. Luckily, just knocked the wall off.
And Dad and my uncle were able to just pick up the back wall and nail it back in. So, but plumb up until the day he died. And then we went, tried climbing up a tree on the riding lawnmower.
Mm-hmm.
I was steering that day too. I think we may have hit the house or the porch once or twice. But you have to think, I was 10 when he died, so I was pretty little whenever I was steering this lawnmower. And evidently he trusted me because we managed to hit a tree in a house and everything. He didn't stop me.
Now when we go places, I drive, and I have a leg foot, and they pickle me for that. But I can steer.
Oh my goodness, my Flintstone brakes are going all the time when you're driving. I feel
I
like my
know.
leg muscles get a good workout.
I know. But I have not hit a tree or a house.
Well,
Not yet.
didn't
Let's
drive
say
through any
that.
bushes either,
No,
right?
not on a go-kart. I did not drive through the bushes, no. And these are good memories,
Yeah.
you know. So we had a hellacious life, but we had a lot of good memories.
And that's probably what
Too.
kept us sane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that fact that we had fun moments too,
Mm-hmm.
trading punches with our dad and our uncles and everybody else. They made us tough.
They did.
Oh my
Which is what they
goodness.
said they wanted,
Yeah.
you know.
Hold
So,
you down and lick the side of your face. I'm like,
Yes, yes.
And they would just cackle. They thought it was hilarious. But you had to fight back to get out of that. So, they made all of us tough.
They did.
My cousins, everybody, we was tough.
And it wasn't, we start hitting and they're like, you don't hit like a girl.
No,
you hit like this.
You put your body into
Mhm.
it, and how to exactly when to turn your fist and everything else. We knew how to punch.
Yes, yes. And you know what? There have been times, and I've talked about this too, that I've gotten really, really mad, and it didn't matter. Big man, whatever. I just was like, come on, let's go at it. And that's because of them. You know what I mean?
Not just not just them, but the fact that we fought a demon for years. You ain't got nothing.
Yep. And I may get hurt, but you know what? Like, I'm not backing down. I'm not going to do it. And that because, like you said, we didn't live through all of that to have somebody just a normal person bully us or whatever too. No, it's not going to happen.
That's why I didn't last too long with my second marriage. I put up with it for a little bit. I can honestly say 2.5 to 3 years, really, in the scheme of things, isn't that long.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even 3 years. I was like, I'm done. I'm not, no.
Mm-hmm.
No, you've done enough damage in these 2.5 years. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too. When you've gone through so much, when you're done, you're done.
You are.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You just, it's not that you turn off feeling, but you do at the same time.
Yes.
You're like, I love you as a person, but I'm done with you.
Yes.
You
absolutely.
can go on about your business. I don't have to see you. I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to have anything to do with you.
Which I guess is in a way how we feel about him, or how when you're saying that, I guess that's how we feel about our dad. You know what I mean? Yes, I love him. I do.
As a person.
Yes. And he was so good to other people, and
Mm-hmm.
he really loved other people. It wasn't just a put on. He was very good to people and would do anything for a lot of people. And that type of person is a very good person. And, he did things for us and did things with us. And,
Right.
we'd get in our tracker and take the convertible thing off and drive to State Park and walk around,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And that's why it makes it hard today, and days like anniversaries today, his
Walk
birthday.
through caves with snakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then I guess the other thing that happened this week that was kind of crazy too, random, but I don't know what the word is. It made me thankful for how we turned out, because things could have been a lot different. I was at work, and me and a coworker were there, and this lady walks in, and she comes up to the window and asks if she can just sit down. And we were like, yeah. And I look, and she's got road rash all over her arm. She's got a bandage there that's fallen off. And she had this little thing on her shirt. At the time, I wasn't for sure what it was. And she asked if I could get that off. And she said that her husband had put that on there. I was like, sure, I'll come around and help you. So she sat down there. And when I looked at her, I thought that she looked like someone who had been put together just a couple of days before. Her hair was pulled up, but then, it had fallen down and things, but it was pulled up, And she had like, around here, people don't have a lot of teeth because of drugs and all this other stuff, but she had false teeth and she wasn't super skinny. She was healthy looking. But when she turned around away from the window to go sit down, I noticed she had a huge bandage from like the middle part of her neck to about the middle part of her back. And I was thinking, well, it looks like she just had some type of surgery. So anyway, I go out there and I help her get this thing off of her shirt, and it was just clipped on her shirt. And when I looked at it, like, I laugh about it now, I really do, but it was this little tiny square flashlight. And after we found out the story of what happened to her, it now makes sense why that was on there, but I'll tell that part in a minute. But she asked for a drink of water while the other girl was going to go get her water. While she was gone, I was like, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Yes, I'm fine. And then I said, is it hot outside? Did you get too hot? Because I was worried. And she said, I'm too tired to talk right now. I'm too tired for conversation. I was like, okay. So I just walked away because I knew when she was done, I was like, okay, well, I'm done. So after I got off of work, I was leaving, and there was this older lady that was walking slowly across the road. So I slowed down. And when I glanced over, I thought maybe it was an animal, like this older lady had seen an animal that got hit, or she had hit an animal. And so I was slowing down to see if she needed help. And I also looked over, and there's this same lady that had been at our business laying on the side of the road, not moving. And I was like, oh, great. She's dead or passed out or something. I was like, oh no. So I turned around because, for one, I didn't want this older lady by herself when I didn't know what was going on. And for two, I was like, do I need to call an ambulance? What do I need to do? So as I'm walking up, the lady that had been in our office sat up, and I'm walking over, and she's like, no, don't come near me. Don't come near me. And the older lady looks at me, and she said, do you know her? And I was like, no, ma'am. And the lady that was on the side of the road said, yes, I do. I know her. I know her through a very close friend. Don't let her come near me. And the older lady's looking at me like, what in the world have you done to this person? And I was like, I don't know you. You don't know me. Yes, I do. I know you. I know you. And this older lady is giving me this look like, okay, what is going on? What have you done? What is going on here? And so luckily about that time, my coworker and her mom, which also works in our office, had seen what was going on. They got on the road and turned around and came back. And my coworker walks up, and we both had on the same collar scrubs and things. And she points to my coworker, and she's like, she's good, but don't let the other one, don't come near me. And so anyway, I finally looked at the older lady, and I was like, she just stopped in our office down the road today. That's the only way that she knows me. I don't even live around here. I live 2 counties over. I don't live here. I don't know this lady. And then you could see, oh, okay, the realization. And also about that time, a cop pulls up. So I was like, obviously, I'm not making this situation any better. I didn't say that. I just walked off and got back in my car. But when I first walked up, and after the lady said, don't come near me, she told the other lady, she said, I need to go to a church. I'm compelled to go to a church. I need to go to a church. And I was like, do I need to pray with her? But she was getting so agitated and like just didn't like me. So I was like, no, I'm not going to pray with her because I don't want to aggravate the situation. But as soon as I got in my car and I sat down, I immediately prayed for her and everybody that was around. Well, later on, I found out because my coworker's mom and the doctor I work for had stopped to help out with the situation. And she ended up being somebody with schizophrenia. And she had recently had a surgery on her neck and had jumped or fallen from a moving car, and that's why she had the road rash and everything like that all over her. And so they said that she wasn't forced to go in an ambulance because she could answer all their questions. She was lucid enough to answer all their questions, and so they couldn't force her to go in an ambulance. But that she was asking the doctor too if he was a pastor and could he pray with her. And so anyway, then the last thing that I found out was that she had been a victim from her dad of multiple traumas and rape. And I said, that really breaks my heart and makes me realize just how lucky we are, because we could have been in that same situation because of the things that we went through. And a lot of traumas and stuff like that can cause or bring out mental illnesses. And
something that just dawned on me too, I don't know if you said it yet, but you had mentioned when we were talking that her having that surgery, her meds got messed up.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we were also talking about the anesthesia, and what just dawned on me just now is her dad. You had said that he was getting ready to be released from prison.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was her or the cops that said that, but the cops definitely verified that her dad was serving jail time, and she definitely had been a victim from him. And she said that, or somebody said that when he got out, he was going to kill her. I don't know if that was her or if that was the cops that said that.
That stressor could have caused the mental break too.
Absolutely.
It sounds like it was just a combination of everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's it's not funny, but it is funny, because what was clipped on her shirt was a little flashlight. And she had left her house and she had walked really, really far, or gotten, like you said yesterday, people may have picked her up or whatever, but she had gone miles and miles and miles from her house. And I said, I'm not laughing at her situation, but it was cute, because I'm thinking maybe she did walk out a lot, and maybe it was dark when she did it. And her husband, who obviously loved her because he came to where she was laying on the side of the road and came to pick her up, because the cops had been in contact with him, and he had told him, he said he had called him when she left and said, she left, I can't find her. And so they contacted him and let him know. But the little thing that was on her shirt was a little flashlight. And she didn't know how to get that clip off of there. And it was just a push down clip to get it off of her shirt. So that is why I was thinking that maybe he really did put that on her shirt just for her to have a light in case she was walking in the dark so people would see her. And it's like just that little thing right there even tells you that he loved her. He was like, I know what you got to do. I know you got to get out of here, but I'm going to do this just to keep you safe, And she just couldn't figure it out. And that's why I said, I feel like he really did put that on her,
Right.
And so, but, we have said that thanks to God, thanks to the church upbringing that we had, we didn't turn to drugs or drinking or anything like that. We went a totally different direction with that stuff. And even when I feel like I'm straying, I still know that God is there. Even when I had put work ahead of going to church and my relationship with him and everything else before, when everything went bad, I had so many people praying for me.
Right.
And that I know, if God was not in the situation with me, I truly may not even be here talking. And that's the truth. It's not an exaggeration. That's the truth. And she may not know God. She may know God. We don't know that. Mm-hmm. And maybe in her mind, God was helping her, and that's why she needed to go to the church. But then at the same time, we talked about this, that Satan, the devil, comes in and deals with people who have mental issues. And so therefore, my boss's wife, when she walked over too at a different time, she felt like she was aggravating the situation. And she said she walked away too. And while she and I were standing there talking before I left, we were talking about maybe she did need to go to the church. Maybe she was needing someone to pray with her. And because in part of her mind, maybe she did know that God was what could help her, because maybe she felt the devil pulling at her mentally.
Right.
You know, and when we walked up and had a different type of spirit that she could, or whatever, could sense and say, I don't want them near me, because
they might be able to help in this situation.
Yes. Yes. And when I found out everything that she had gone through, it just really got to me. So when I got home and I had finished telling my husband about everything, he was kind of upset. He said, I wish you wouldn't have stopped. And I said, well, if it wasn't for the older lady, I might not have. I really might not have seen that person laying there, for one. I said, but for two, I might not have stopped. But I didn't want that older lady taking care of this person by herself. And I didn't know what was going to happen, because the little lady, she wasn't old, but she was older and she was small. So, sorry, we had to cut off for a minute. The dogs went crazy. But so I told my husband that I stopped because this lady was small. I didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, he was like, well, you never know what can happen. So I understand why you stopped, but at the same time, I kind of wish you wouldn't have. But if it wasn't for the older lady, then I would have told you shouldn't have. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I started to walk away out the door, and I turned around and looked at him. I said, that could have been me. And he went, yeah, I know, or something like that. And he was like, I got you. And I looked back at him. I said, no, that could have been me. Gone through multiple traumas, things like that. I could have ended up like that. And then he realized what I was saying. He was like, I understand. And you're right. Yeah. And I understand him worried about our safety and my safety. And I totally get that. And I appreciate that. But it just made me think. And Heather and I were thinking about everything. And it was just strange that, you know, that we didn't turn, like I said, to drugs or drinking or anything like that. And God did keep our minds sane as good as he could, you know, as much as he could, you know, in the situations when you have so many other things coming at you too. So
yeah, we are definitely lucky that we didn't totally lose our minds.
Not totally.
And then
sometimes it's debatable, but
right. You have a son who's not actually on a microphone, so they can't hear that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, you know, it did make my heart go out to her more. And I have prayed and I've wondered and hoped that she got the help that she needs to get back to normal.
Right.
And I'm thankful that she has someone that loves her and wants to help her out. In amongst all of this, I was told that he stopped and picked her a little wildflower while he was trying to walk back to her after she'd ran away from him. And that just shows you how much that he does either understand her mind and where she is, and that he does love her, obviously, to do all of that stuff.
Right.
And we don't know the story behind people who are on drugs, in prisons, drunk, all that stuff. Some people just get that way. Some people just choose to live that way. Others have lived lives that we lived. And that's why they've ended up the way that they are. Because they didn't know God, or they didn't have that relationship, or it was just too much for them to be able to handle, and therefore they had to have something else to turn to. So it just gave me a different we've talked about that before, but that one hit home and gave me a different perspective on things and how easily that it could have been us. So,
and we were talking about how you only work there like a couple of days a week, and it's 2 counties over from where you live, and God just put you where you needed to be at that time.
and she walked into our office,
Right.
and we're not on we're kind of on a main road, but we're not, and we're down over the hill away from people. It was just weird because there were other businesses along where we are too, and she happened to just end up in our waiting area. It was very strange, but God, like you say, God put her there and put me there, knowing whatever He knows.
You wouldn't be the type to say, you know what, lady, you're going to have to leave. You're just going to have, if you're not seeing the doctor or whatever, you're going to have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But you made sure she was safe.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, God knew where to send her. And then you find out all that she's gone through. And when we have a podcast about dealing with that kind of stuff and the things that we've gone through. So it wasn't just a random, she just dropped in our office. It was a God thing.
It was. And all of us that were there are Christians. We may have different churches that we go to, or religions, if you will. Like they're Catholic, we're, I'm Baptist or whatever, but it didn't matter. We all knew God. Right. And knew that she needed prayer.
And like I was saying last night, He sent you all as like a physical hedge of protection around her because she was on the side of the road, and not everybody would have stopped or slowed down to see what exactly it was. Someone could have hit her.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes.
So God put everybody exactly where they needed to be. We don't know what kind of relationship she has with God. And I mean, just because she's having an episode doesn't mean that God's not with her.
Right. Absolutely.
And she and God,
and even if she didn't have a relationship with God, maybe us praying, God was able to show her. She doesn't know that we were praying. I don't know if my boss prayed with her. He very well could have. I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't there at that time. I'd already left.
Right.
But if he did, and that's what she wanted, maybe God was able to show her, I am real.
Right. Right.
All you have to do is believe in me and know, and I will help you.
Right.
Even through something crazy like this, He can still help. So, yeah. And God does put us in places, random places, sometimes we have no clue about, to find out things about ourselves, about other people, and to show Himself.
Right.
To people.
Right.
So.
And because you've gone through the things that you had that compassion to make sure that she was okay, even when she was in your office, even when she told you that, I don't feel like talking right now.
She didn't want to talk to me anymore. I was like, all right, then I'll just walk away. I can tell when I'm not wanted,
But you still stayed close by to keep an eye on her to make sure she was safe.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And some other people wouldn't. They'd be like, well, you don't want to talk to me. Drink your water, get out.
Yeah. And I did. I wanted to make sure, for one, I wanted to make sure she wasn't going to do anything to our business, but I wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to pass out or anything like that on her own, and even when she left, we watched to make sure she got wherever she was going.
Right.
And so, yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes God allows those things to happen. It's sort of like a test. How are you going to react in this situation? And like I said, too, who knows? They may tell her, these are the people that stopped when she gets her meds regulated and is in her right mind. Someone may say, these are the people that stopped for you. And she may come in that office and thank you all.
Mm-hmm.
And you might get to see who she is without all this stuff going on.
Right. Yes.
Because you had said she looked like she had been really kept.
Like put together. Yeah, she did. Yes.
That it was a quick quick mental break.
And that's what I said. At first, we were like, she's on drugs. She's got to be on drugs, because that's where we live. Unfortunately, that's the first thing that comes to mind because there's so many people that are in that circumstance. And that's what we thought at first. But then when I saw her down the road and saw how she was, I even said, I feel like she's had a recent surgery because of that on the back of her neck. And something is not right. I said, whether she has an infection and it's made her really, really sick and kind of out of her mind like it can, or she's having some type of mental episode. I said, if she's on some type of drugs, it's very minimal because she wasn't shaking. She wasn't acting like that. Her eyes weren't crazy, dilated and all of this other stuff too. That's exactly what I had said. And I did not know.
Right. And I was thinking schizophrenia. I was like, because of the fact that she's like, I know her, get her away from me. I was like, you probably triggered a memory, or you reminded her of someone that she didn't want to be around.
Yes. Yeah.
So in her mind, I don't want to be around her. I know her.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's how a lot of schizophrenic people are. And then saying, I don't want these cops around me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that just reminded me a lot of someone having a schizophrenic episode.
And being in the medical field for as long as we have been, get hardened sometimes.
You do.
And I'm thankful too that I wasn't just like, whatever, I am not dealing with this right now. I've been here. I still have an hour drive home. I'm not doing it. Whatever. You know what I mean? And just being like, oh, it's that same lady that was in our office. I'm going to go on down the road, whatever. I don't even care.
So many people can have that kind of attitude. I've done dealt with her. Let someone else deal with her right now.
Yeah, I could not do that. I physically could not do that. It was like, nope, it was never even, oh man, I don't want to have to do this and then go turn around. No, it was, okay, well, I see her on the side of the road. I'm turning around. Immediate. It just.
And the fact that the other woman's looking at you like, what did you do to her?
Yeah, exactly. And she said, well, she knows you. She said that a couple times. The older lady said that a couple times. She was like, she knows you. It's like, ma'am, she doesn't. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't violate HIPAA at first because, anyway, I'm in the medical field. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. She wasn't a patient in there. I don't even know her name. I don't know her name. So I'm not violating anything because, and that's when I said she stopped in our business, in our clinic, but I don't know her, so, but yeah. And that lady older lady could have been like, listen, telling the cops, I don't know what she did to her, but she's telling her to get away. All this other, it could have been really, really bad, but
right.
So, but yeah. So with all of that, everything that's gone on,
and then
this
we had
week,
a boy that grew up with my boys and calls me mom and everything. And him and his wife had a baby at 25 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that that's one of those sort of touch and go situations. Mm-hmm. But, I feel like God was with her or with them beforehand because she was measuring 2 weeks ahead of time. The baby was a pound more than what he should have been at the weeks that she's gone. And we know that when a baby is born, the more weight that they have when they're born, the better their chances. So we've had that we've been praying about. So definitely pray for this little baby. His name is Wyatt. Just call out his name and pray that God gives him the strength to gain the weight that he needs, his lungs to get strong,
mm-hmm.
and for him to just flourish.
Yes. Yeah.
Outside the womb.
Mm-hmm. And I did say it was kind of odd or ironic or whatever that this happens this week and they had you spur of the moment marry them a week and a half ago.
Right.
And from what I read or what I understand, they didn't know this was going to happen. They didn't really have any indications of anything like this.
No.
But they felt led to get married,
right.
And not that it really changes anything, but at the same time, maybe it does.
Right.
When you're boyfriend and girlfriend and you have a baby or whatever, your bond is strong. I'm not saying it's not, but when you're married, there is a difference, even if it is just for a week or whatever. I feel like a lot of people look at that differently.
Right.
You know, you have to change your way of thinking when you do that. And it obviously did mean something to them for them to be married.
Right.
Versus just being
that,
in a relationship, you know? So, yeah. But yeah, it's been a
roller coaster week.
A very different week. Yes, absolutely.
Just continue keeping our pastor in your prayers if you're praying people also. So the enemy comes and he attacks the shepherd, hoping that the sheep will stray.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's, you don't know what's going to happen when the leader of a church is down.
Yeah. That's exactly
That's
right.
when some of the other spirits, Jezebel spirits and things like that, want to try to wreak havoc.
Mm-hmm.
So just pray for healing for him and just a hedge of protection around the ministry.
Yes. And for the families of
the people that have gone through the tragic things this week.
Yes, absolutely. And not just the families, but the people that were close and, just everyone that's been affected by this.
Right. All right. I guess we're good for this week and we'll be back next week.
Hopefully not twice.
What is it they say? The same bat time, the same bat channel. Is that what they said years ago on Batman?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
We'll be back on the same bat time, the same bat channel.
Yeah.
That's probably even before my time, but I've heard it. But anyway.
Another thing is, too, we've had one or two people reach out to us about ordering on the website. And so if you order T-shirts, you can order the same design, multiples of the same design at the same time. But you cannot order different designs at the same time. So if you want like the small logo, you can get whatever sizes you want on that.
Or whatever collars. You can change the collar and stuff.
Yes. And then you have to place another order. Unfortunately, it's not us. It's the site that's selling it that causes that stuff to happen, or however you want to say it. But we just wanted to let you all know that also, that, there's not a glitch. That's just the way that it is. So you just have to do it that way, because we'd had a couple people ask that. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that if you wanted to do that, then we appreciate any sales that we get, but also that's how you have to do it on that website.
And just wearing that shirt can start conversations. It's reaching other people also. And please share our Facebook page, our website with people, www.survivingdarknesspodcast.com, because, we really want to reach more.
Mm-hmm.
We've just on our Spotify, we have like 983 views. So, we're close to 1,000. And for us to be like nobodies
mm-hmm.
in a small town, we know that at least we've reached a few people.
Yes.
And we would love to be able to reach more so that they realize that they're not fighting alone.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly right. Yes.
So really, we're done now.
Yes.
Have a good week.